I went to Shaday this winter to have one of the greatest adventures of my life. The village of Shaday is located in one of the remotest corners of Zanskar. It is reachable only by foot along a 25-kilometer long trail cut across steep slopes and narrow gorges. I have walked this trail 4 times already in the past year and was quite familiar with it. While the locals can easily reach Shaday within a day, I normally take 2 days to do the trek carrying a heavy backpack. This time, however, I decided to lighten the load a bit by leaving my winter tent, which saved almost 2.5 kilos. Not having a tent would mean that I would have to sleep out in the open, and the cold December nights would be a lot more uncomfortable, especially if it was a bit windy or if it suddenly started snowing during the night. Luckily, neither of those things happened, and my night was mostly comfortable once I was inside my sleeping bag. I arrived at Shaday just in time to attend one of the most fascinating annual events at the village. At the beginning of every winter, the villagers of Shaday go into the mountains to find and bring all their yaks back home. It is a difficult job as the yaks roam over vast distances, crossing multiple mountain passes in their search for grass during the summer months. It sounded like a grand adventure, and I very much wanted to go with the villagers. It would have been impossible for me to keep up with the villagers if they were going on foot, but luckily for me, they were going on horseback and agreed to arrange a horse for me as well. I was a bit nervous as I had never properly ridden a horse before, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I did not want to miss. So a few days later, me and 5 other villagers set off on horseback to find the yaks. My trip got to the worst possible start as I fell off my horse within 5 minutes of starting our journey. I fell again trying to get back on the horse, but I eventually got back on and then held on tight to the reins as if my life depended on it. It was an amazing experience to be on horseback as we climbed Kotangla, the first of 2 passes that we were to cross that day. We rode horses on the climb up to the pass and then went on foot during the descent down the pass on the other side. We rested for a while by a stream at the base of the Kotangla pass and then climbed towards Larla, the second pass of the day. The climb to Larla was a bit nerve-wracking, but eventually we reached the top of the pass and I was so relieved to be back on my feet again.
Larla. ये जहाँ का नाम क्या है? लरबाऊ. ये आपका विंटर का जगह है ना?
We continued on foot for the rest of the day, descending down into the Ningri Valley. We spotted some groups of yaks along the way. I expected the villagers to take the yaks with them, but they just counted the yaks they spotted and then went along their way. We had to find some 27 yaks in total, so the villagers planned to go further down the valley until they found all the 27 yaks and then turn back towards Shaday and collect all the yaks on their way back. We stopped for the night by a rock on the valley floor. It was a totally open location and I expected it to be very cold during the night. But it did not matter to the villagers that we would be sleeping out in the open. All they looked for was a place with a good supply of food to help us cook and then keep us warm during the evening. Pretty soon they had a fire roaring and we all sat around it, basking in its warmth and enjoying each other's company. We had chutahir, which is bread in a soupy broth for dinner, and then continued sitting around the fire for a long time, unwilling to leave its warmth and go into our cold sleeping bags. Even though I sat by the fire for a long time, my feet were very cold when I went inside my sleeping bag. I barely slept that night. I was worried about getting frostbitten again, so I kept wriggling my toes all night and tried rubbing my feet to get some warmth into them. The next morning, we set off again in search of the remaining yaks. We spotted more yaks along the way, but still 5 were missing when we reached the head of the valley. The villagers suspected that they might be across another pass called Penangla and they went onwards to search for them. I was a bit tired at this point, so I asked them to carry on and then took shelter in a stone hut. The villagers use these huts when they come to graze their animals in the summer months. The villagers returned the next afternoon, bringing the 5 remaining yaks back with them. The Penangla Pass had a lot of snow and the villagers told me that they had a tough time crossing it with all their animals. With all the yaks accounted for, we turned back towards Shaday, collecting the yaks along the way. We stopped for the night at the same place that we stopped on the first day. The villagers soon had a fire going and we settled in for the night. The next day, we continued on our way back to Shaday, rounding up all the remaining yaks that we found along the way. Sometimes the villagers had to scramble up steep slopes to bring the yaks down with them. We went mostly on foot for a large part of the day until we reached the base of the Larla Pass. With the climb to Larla ahead of us, it was time to ride horses again. And by this time, I was becoming quite comfortable on the saddle and more importantly, started to have more faith in the horse that I was riding. I was so comfortable that I even had the confidence to let go of the reins completely and use my camera in both hands. The footage I got was mostly shaky, bouncing up and down with the movement of the horse. But it doesn't matter as it captured one of the most unique adventures that I've had in all my life. The uniqueness probably making it the greatest adventure of my life so far. After Larla, we were on foot again, going downhill towards the base of the next climb up to Kotangla. The climb to Kotangla was long and hard, but at the same time, it was spectacular, allowing me to take some great shots along the way. There was more snow here on the route, and the animals, both our horses and the yaks, struggled to climb up the steep slopes in the snow. Eventually, we reached the top of the Kotangla Pass and the villagers all shouted a prayer of thanks before heading down towards Shaday. This ended one of the most memorable adventures of my life, but the main event, the one that I came to Shaday for, was just about to start.